Hello and welcome to the show. We are here today on BeamNG Drive with 3 more vehicles being driven till destruction. And we start with something quite interesting. This is the Roth Alpha. It is essentially a 90s Opel Omega Staker. It's not a crazy exciting vehicle to begin with, but it's kind of a fun thing to have in the game, just kind of more normal everyday cars. And this has got a normal everyday engine. It's a 2.2 litre turbo diesel going on in this one. So nothing particularly crazy. Kind of curious to see how it's going to... Oh, I didn't reset that properly. Well done me. Kind of curious to see how it's going to go, yeah. It is rear-wheel drive, which might be a good thing. If I'm honest, I'm not 100% sure. So the downside with the rear-wheel drive cars is you've got a long drive shaft. We already knocked out a light. I don't know why the lights are on, but anyway, yes, with a sort of slightly longer vehicle like this, you have a long drive shaft that goes underneath the car, and this circuit has been quite punishing so far for vehicles in terms of bending the chassis. And what you get is, because of some of the quite heavy landings of the jumps, the cars are hitting these landings, and over time it's just bowing the chassis, and it gets to a point where the drive shaft from the gearbox, well, you know, back to the rear diff, just can't stay connected and it snaps. So we are seeing quite a lot of that around this circuit. So rear-wheel drive cars may struggle with that. Front-wheel drives always struggle because you land on the front a lot over normal jumps, and that does tend to knock out front wheels and front wheel axles, and that tends to kill your drive quite quickly. The spinners so far have yet to play their part. These are more a make sure a vehicle still has enough steering kind of a thing, shall we say. They're at a height where they don't tend to completely wreck. A lot of cars will go under them, but it's just a fun little challenge for cars. And yeah, if they've got too poorly a steering, they're going to have some trouble, but we haven't really seen that as of yet. Speed wise, I mean, this is not the worst car in the world. It's also by no means the fastest. That's actually quite okay. Well, it was quite good in terms of not really damaging the vehicle too much outside of the radiator going. I'm not so fussed about the radiator going. At the end of the day, with the kind of jumps and then the likelihood of landing on the nose of the car at some point, the radiator is likely to fail. Overheating will kill this car. It's a guaranteed endpoint, shall we say. However, I suspect most vehicles are going to die long before they ever get to that point. There's too many other things around it. Overheating will kill a few vehicles. It killed the Covert, and I'm sure there will be other vehicles that will survive until they overheat. But yeah, in general, this is a pretty punishing circuit. Maybe we should want second gear through all of this. That was a big clonk on the front of the car through there, but it's okay. I was worried it might have landed on the front wheels, but they seem fine. There's a nasty crunching sound going on when the back hits. I don't know if we're breaking something back there. Steering still pretty good. So far it is. Okay, I guess we do want second down there. And this jump here is actually pretty nasty because it's just... you're landing sort of solidly on concrete. Although the good news for the car was it landed on all its wheels, so the weight, the forces was all evenly distributed. Across there we go, no problems. Again, it's still a little bit nose heavy on that one. It definitely looks like there's something sort of buckling underneath the car. When I was spinning the camera around, I can't look too much, I've still got to drive the vehicle. But it looks like around the front, it looks like something's crunched down. So I don't know whether that's a sign of... Oh, the exhaust has come off in the water. For a second I thought I lost drive, but no. You know, the car suddenly sat really low. Yeah, you can kind of see around behind the front wheel. It looks like the chassis is being bent a little bit, or is that something... I don't quite... Maybe that's just how it was. It looks a little bit odd. So we got no exhaust on the car. Not the worst thing to fall off or to break on the vehicle. We're across the bumps there. I feel like the suspension's done something a bit funky. I think we might have collapsed a rear suspension a little bit. Ooh, nearly. Yeah, rear left, is it? Maybe not. Because like, it came out of the water and it looked like the car was sitting funny on the road, but it's difficult to know. I keep forgetting we're in a diesel. So we do pull to the left a little bit. It's not the worst thing in the world, but we do pull a smidge to the left. We're going about the same sort of mid 50 miles an hour up there as we hit the ground hard again, but no lasting damage done to the vehicle. Temperature is now starting to get to the middle of the temperature gauge. We've got a little while to go before it overheats. We've probably got another couple of laps before the car overheats, depending on how we have to drive it. If we can get away with, not having to rev the nuts off it constantly, then oh, we might be okay. That looked painful. That looked like it shoved a whole bunch of the front subframe back. That's gonna, I think that's gonna take the drive shaft out. I think we're gonna lose a drive shaft in this before we. Yeah, that doesn't look right under the front of the car. That really doesn't look right at all. Okay, there's a lot of smoke now pouring out the front. I really want to keep the nose up across these jumps if at all possible. I keep forgetting I should probably go down to second, but now we're about to sort of speed. Third's fine through there. Screw it. Please don't stand the drive shaft. Okay, thankfully that jump, while it's a really horrific landing, and this was just jumping straight onto concrete and everything. Thankfully, at least you do land fairly evenly across all the wheels. Oh, again, another big clonk for the car. It's still going at this point. We are still just about in one piece. Heading to the water now. So last time this tore out the exhaust. But there is the exhaust. I think it just skated along the rocks. So as you've taken damage, the car has got lower. Oh, the car's definitely got lower. Okay, so it's scraping along the floor down there. That's problematic for the vehicle. Piston rings are damaged. I mean, we are now on the brink of overheating death, pretty much. We lost some power from the car. We'll bounce our way across that section. I mean, it's not doing too badly, all things considered. Oh, almost drove that in too quickly. The steering's still okay on the car. The big jump might be a problem. The coolant's overheating. How long have we got in this before it lets go? That is the question. Can we get across the jump? Can we get to the end of the lap even? I thought it might be a little bit longer with it before it lets go, but it doesn't really look like it. We're struggling a bit for pace up here. Oh, it's a big hit on the ground. Come on, car, just keep on going. It's definitely very poorly. I'm amazed the buckling around the front end hasn't done more damage to the car, if I'm honest with you. I really did think once I saw that starting to go, once I saw how it was across those kind of nasty sort of squares, I thought I was going to kill it. Or something like that. Again, it's hitting the front really hard. I mean, it has literally just all been front end damage, not really buckled. Like the middle of the chassis is kind of held up. What is going on with the back? Is it one of the... Looks like one of the suspension arms has fallen lower than the other back there. I'm not sure if that's quite how it's supposed to go. I mean, the car is on its deathbed now. It is going to expire pretty damn soon. Head gasket's gone. And it will not be long for this world. At least now, if it expires here, it is going to go on to another... It can roll towards another lap. I'm going to keep it in third, maybe. Come on. Come on, Diesel. You can make it. Just live a little bit longer. That's all we ask of you. Just a little bit longer. We have to go down to second. We're really struggling now for power. It's still going, though. It's a determined bugger, I'll give it that much. It really is a determined car. I don't really want to change gear because I think we're just going to... Well, it will just die. Oh, rod bearings are gone. Smoke is billowing everywhere from the car. Whatever was dragging has at least been moved because it is now across here. No problem whatsoever. I mean, we've still got full steering, even if the front left seems a bit iffy, and that's it gone. That's it. That's all we have. I say that's all we have. That is not a bad showing whatsoever from the Alpha. I mean, it does actually look like whatever was underneath the car has just lifted up a second. Yeah, I mean, it's actually held up pretty good under there. Something did look like it was hanging off at one point. I wonder whether there's a bit of bodywork that actually is broken free at some point. Definitely, it looks like something's going on with the rear suspension. One of them looks lower. Regardless, that is actually a pretty damn impressive performance from the vehicle. Up next, we have got a Covert. This is the V6R4 Covert. It's essentially a Group B version of the Covert along the lines of the Metro, shall we say. This is a ridiculously fast car. Yes, it is built for rallying. Yes, it has got softer suspension, but as you can see here, actually, as we turn the wheels, it's monumentally fast. And now, as I said with the previous car, the rules of this series, vehicles have got to be driven as fast as they can around this circuit. For this car, that does not mean it can be flat out over every jump. The reason, pretty simple, this vehicle is so quick that it could clear the fence in places. So, there is going to be more use of brakes simply because the car is so quick. However, it's going to hit stuff a lot faster in general than anything else. I mean, it's all-wheel drive. It doesn't have a huge amount of grip. I mean, I'm fighting for control on the tarmac here. It's a pretty brutal machine. Gonna see how it goes. Rally car theoretically should be good. Struggling to turn a little bit through there. Quite a load of understeer. You know what we can cure that with? A whole load of oversteer, maybe. Okay, don't go across, jump sideways. That's how you end up having a roll or break something quite important. There we go. That's fine. Oh dear. Into the spin as we go on the first lap. Should be no problem whatsoever through there. I'll accelerate away towards our next turn. Now, cars like this, from previous experience, what we are likely to see with this car is not much damage for a while, followed by a lot of damage all of a sudden. These cars kind of go out in one hit. Or maybe a couple of big hits, because, yeah, it is built to withstand an element of off-roading. You know, it's got strong suspension and all of that sort of stuff, because it's so quick. If something goes wrong for this car, if a bump just throws it a little bit awkwardly, for example, then you end up in all sorts of bother just because you're going so much faster than anything else. The good news with that power is, for example, on that jump there, because I can be accelerating a little bit faster than anything else, I can actually keep the nose up in the air better. It doesn't land on the nose as heavily. Here I can't really do too much about necessarily, but yeah. Whoa! Uh-oh. There's no grip in this at all. It's like driving on ice. I would have thought all-wheel drive, but no, there's just nothing. The radiator has actually survived. Of course, other thing to bear in mind with this car, the engine, that is in the middle. Ooh. Did not want to turn through that corner. I can't. If I hit take that flat, you end up all sorts of trouble. So there we go. We're fine. Now the radiator has gone. Now radiators like cars like this, sorry, do tend to overheat quicker. The water might cool some cars. I think it might depend on how it's broken. Something really doesn't feel right with the suspension on this car at all. I can't quite put my finger on it. I definitely think something with the rear left is a bit funky. It's not enough to be really fully broken, but there's something unhappy in there. That much is for sure. Oh, car. Come on. Get off the sand. It definitely doesn't seem to steer very well. Oh! For example, like that. Okay. It's just not... It's not steering properly. It has met the spinner. I mean, the spinner has done a lot of damage, but it's all bodywork. Now, we grabbed reverse to get out of where we were. I wasn't allowed to grab reverse for where it ended up, because that was on full steering lock and it went there. But once the spinner's pointed you the wrong way, you're allowed to reverse to turn around like that. Oh, that's a very heavy hit on the nose. Not that it matters so much with this car, owing to the fact that, well, the radiator's already gone, the engine's in the back. I guess you could lose steering, but, you know, however. I think... See, it now actually feels like it's got the steering back again. I wonder whether the suspension is being compromised, shall we say, and a whack has actually kind of bent the vehicle back into some sort of line. It doesn't... Yeah, so it steers left very well, but it doesn't really steer right. And I can't figure out quite what's causing that. I can't see anything visually as to why that's the case. I mean, it still drives relatively well in a straight line. Oh no, it does pull quite badly to the left. I take that back. I mean, so busy fighting the car, just trying to keep it under control, not notice how balked the steering is. Oh crap, don't go to the post. There's another big clonk for the car. I mean, we've got some good distance going on in this at the moment. Whoa. Stop moving around so much. But we're going to have to try and go through that spinner again. That's the nerve-wracking part. Are we going to have two cars go out from overheating in one episode? Possibly. I mean, This is... Oh, the rest of it is holding on pretty well. Oh. Yeah, okay, there seems to be a combination of things that go on when I'm trying to turn right. The steering pulls naturally to the left, and the suspension is buggered on the left-hand side. So when I'm turning right, it's just inconsistent. You're never quite sure what you're going to get. Across these bumps we go. Now, I don't really want to have an argument with a spinner again here. We're going to go nice and slowly into there. Yeah, time around. I wonder whether I just managed to upset the suspension or upset the weight transfer of the car. Something happened and it just didn't want to turn last time. So at least we are better this one. Oh god, yeah, I can't really get it in a straight line coming up here. There we go. That's not too bad. Oh, another heavy clonk on the front of the car. The temperature's all gone out. How's the temperature all gone out of the vehicle? That wasn't from the water. I mean, I haven't really been... So with this car here, you don't really sit at full throttle very long. I can't, simply because the vehicle's so powerful, so difficult to drive. So we've got to be at half throttle and off the throttle quite a lot. But I swear the temperature was still quite high after the water set. I don't know. Well, the car's cooled down somewhere along the run. This is going pretty damn well for the Covert. I'm not that the curse of the commentator would ever possibly be a thing. However, something's what's flapping below the vehicle at the back. What is that? Is that the shock? Okay, I think I figured out why my car's having handling issues. I curse of the commentated it. I absolutely 100% curse of the commentated it. Now, technically, we are still moving, and we have cleared the 20-mile-an-hour cruiler rule, but I think it's going to blow the engine to bits doing it, and it is now beached on the curb. Now, we do generally say we're allowed to pull cars up, unless it's chassis damage. We generally allow cars at least a chance to get pulled over the thing, over a bump. It's never going to get across the squares. Yeah, we're going to blow the engine a bit. I mean, it is moving very, very slowly. Very slowly indeed. Come on. I mean, it's just going to blow the engine up doing this. It did get to the 20-mile-an-hour mark. I've never had a car quite die in this manner. I mean, it's got drive on one side, which I can't keep down. It actually is going to get stuck in the water. Come on, we've got 24 miles an hour out of the car. It is determined. The engine's surely going to go pop any second now. It can't survive like this. Surely the engine cannot survive this sort of torture. We might actually have to try to avoid some of the water, because I think it's just going to get stuck again in there. So it's just the things, yeah, where the wheel is getting caught on the right. It might not actually be able to get up the hill. That's a curiosity as well. We'll see if we can get it up the hill. Because, yeah, I mean, very, very low-slung cars. This is the downside of having these sort of obstacles. Very low-slung cars do get stuck on them regardless. And generally, you know, we don't want to punish the low-slung cars particularly. Is something else gone wrong with this car now? Why is it not moving at all? There. I don't think it can do the hill. I think the hill is going to be a step too. Yeah. It can drive, but it can only drive left, which is just going to take us away from where we're supposed to go, and we will pop the engine. Try to do this. That is a death. That is a death for the V6 R4 Covert. That is the end of it. It was doing very, very well until it twisted on a jump, and losing that wheel, there's nothing left. As I said before, I got distracted by the wheels falling off. I think a shock was hanging down. We can actually probably have a look at that if we just lift the car up a second. Is that a shock? Oh no, it's not the shock. It looked like the shock. I think it's actually just the exhaust. I think it's just the exhaust. Through the smoke it looked like the shock. There's definitely something wrong in this corner. I mean, something wrong now, but that's kind of a bit irrelevant. Yeah, something went wrong in that corner. I made the car quite erratic to drive. I mean, it went through the spinners. It kept going. It's the worst damage we've seen from the spinners on a vehicle by a fair margin. In the end, yeah, lost a wheel. The final vehicle to take on this course today is the Piccolina. Now, difference with this vehicle to others is air-cooled. There is no radiator, so this will not go out from overheating, I don't think. I don't actually know if you can overheat the air cooler. I mean, in reality, sure, you could if you didn't get enough air, etc., but I don't know whether you can in here. There are bigger concerns, really, for the car. It's very small and very light, and while this is the faster version of the vehicle, this is the 1.3, I believe it is, it's not crazy quick, so we may have issues with some of the jumps. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. Bits of the car are likely to be quite fragile. The fuel tank is one of the primary concerns I have, especially with some of the jumps with the way you land. Fuel tank can get ruptured in this, from what I remember of the car. Wheels are always a questionable thing. The front wheels on this are what I am most worried about. So this is, I mean, it's rear engine, rear wheel drive, so we're not going to see a drive shaft snap as such. The front end, as long as it is, I mean, as long as we have a wheel to do some steering, doesn't really matter what happens to the front end in this car as such. Although I think it's the fuel tank at the front. It might be actually the fuel tank at the front. I can't remember. Regardless, we're going to have to be, say, a little bit careful. The small concern, small concerns with this car, it's already got bent steering. That's fine. It's held up through this first section, no problem. The first sort of bumps haven't really done all the way. It's still almost in showroom condition. I can't even see, apart from the steering being slightly buckled. Visually speaking, the car looks in great nick. This jump here, we are going to struggle for speed up. Are we going to still... Oh, there goes the exhaust. Well, that's fine. We can live without an exhaust. I was trying to see if they did more damage to the wheels. They haven't really. Okay, so we've got quite a lot of at the front. It's the front left that's suspect. I think that's the one that gets hit fairly hard around here. It does seem to be the case that the front left's got lots and lots of positive camber going on, which is not really going to help this car turn. The front right takes a whack off that jump normally. It's the way you're turning to line up for that. So that jump you want to take with as much speed as possible, but in doing that you often don't fall off the jump quite perfectly straight. It's a... Oh, I was steering when I was landing. That was a bad idea. Yeah, it's a, I'd say, risk versus reward thing. You want as fast as possible off that jump, but you also want to be as straight as possible off the jump. And you've got to kind of balance the two things up. Now, the plus point for this car, we've got to bear in mind, of course, is that while it is slower than, you know, the likes of the Covert, that could be a good thing. Oh, well, you say it could be a good thing. Of course, there's just less speed going on, perhaps less forces in the crashes, and a lighter car, less forces in the crashes as well. But it's not as strong a car either. We can already see the front right has had that, or I saw it collapse on the landing there. So we've lost suspension in the front right. Now, the problem we get with that, of course, is there's now nothing cushioning the blow, so to speak. If we crash back onto that front corner, we can see that wheel ping off. It's also going to make the handling rubbish for the vehicle. It's going to bounce around a little erratically, which is not what you want on a course like this. It's not the worst damage we've ever seen on a vehicle, but, you know, it's just something we've now got to live with. It's also likely to do more harm. You know, we've lost suspension. This section here is going to do a little bit more harm. We definitely need some names for some sections on this circuit. So please do leave them in the comments if you have some good names for the various... I mean, the spinners are fairly easy. The rest, not so sure. So yeah, if you've got names for this circuit, please do leave them in the comments, and we'll get naming some parts. Through there we go. Definitely is suspension trouble on more than one wheel, I think. I'm not sure the front left's gone as well. So we have no real shock absorber, or I don't quite know what's snapped, but all of it is basically gone on the front. The steering's a little erratic, the rear left wheel is slightly bent. I mean, it's all little things at the moment, nothing major. It crunches down pretty hard, although I guess now the suspension has gone, what's it going to hit now? I guess it's going to start bananaing the chassis. Plus point for this car, as I said, is it is light. You know, while the chassis is not as strong as some vehicles, there's also just less forces going on when it does come crashing into the ground, and that will help it survive a little bit, I would think. Oh dear, this has not gone well for me. Come on. Oh, that's a horrible crunch on the front. The front... I guess it's just pushed the bumper back. It's not really done much more than that. Third gear, I don't know if I want around here, possibly. Oh, that's a crunch directly on a wheel. It's still holding up. It's still holding up just about at the moment. Yeah, we're all good. Here we go. Now, across these next jumps, that cracked the rear window. No, not rear window. Cracked the front window, actually, on that one. Oh, there's lots of big hits going on the front of the car now. That front left, I'm not sure, is actually really touching the ground anymore. Oh. Is the front left touching the ground? Possibly. That's hit the front right into the ground some more. It's just pushing the front wheels back at the moment. I mean, there will come a point where they've got nowhere left to go. There'll come a point where it hits hard enough and it just snaps, I suspect. Not quite as dramatic as the Covert. It's got some... it's going some good distance at the moment. I did think that this was going to fall apart a bit easier, if I'm honest with you. I did expect to see this conk out kind of quickly, but it isn't really stopping at the moment. Okay, right, so I see the problem we've got with the front left. As we turn, in fact, we've got a problem with both the front wheels. So as we turn, the car just gets massive, massive positive camber, and of course as we do that, you just get no grip, because there's no tyre in contact with the ground, basically. It's still got full complement of steering, though, which is what matters. Ooh. It's bobbling. There's peculiar bobbling under braking that I've not really seen before. I suspect that is a side effect of all the damage that's gone on with the car. It's, you know, not in the best of ways. The front end is so low to the ground, it is getting worse. Now that's alarming. It's alarming for some of the speed bump sections and all of that kind of thing. Again, we hit down there with no real harm done. But if the front keeps collapsing, what we'll find is where those squares are, where the speed bumps are, we're actually going to hit maybe the front subframe on that, or whatever we have at the front of the car, the actual chassis. And if we start hitting that, if we start scraping that along the floor, we're in for a tough time. Oh, suddenly got a kick of oversteer there. I hadn't been experiencing that all day. There goes the fuel tank. I knew that was a danger for the car, because it is at the front. I guess we've taken enough damage now that we're actually starting doing a lot more. We are going to run out of fuel, basically, in this. Shame we haven't got the big fireball we see from the car sometimes when the fuel... You know, we want spectacular here. We want the big fireball from the car as the fuel tank leaks. Or I guess maybe with the engine at the back it doesn't. I don't know, who knows how the game decides when the Kings catch on fire. We're going to make it onto another lap, that much is true. But it's not going to make it much further. It's so poorly at the front of the car. It's going to run out of fuel. That's exactly what I was worried about. If we got to those squares, I think we would just die on them anyway. The front right wheel is now very, very high in all of this. We have run out of fuel. It's gone. The fuel is no more. We will coast it. But that is that. It did good. I mean, I'm impressed with it. It ran an impressive run around here. The fuel tank was always potentially suspect. I did think it might have gone out before we ever got to that stage, but just repeated battering on the front. I mean, you can the front wheel is not supposed to be there. The front wheel is really, really not supposed to be that far up. Can I pull the bonnet off? Is it going to let me? Surprisingly well connected, actually. But yeah, I mean, you can see how well battered that front end is in there. See how much buckled up the chassis is at the there. Yeah, just that repeated battering. It held on. It held on really, really well. Credit where it is due. It still had all steering. It was still working. As I said, if we got to those squares over there, I'm pretty sure we would have just torn the underside of the car apart. I don't think it would have done much past that. However, the first vehicle to rupture a fuel tank and run out of fuel. So, on to our leaderboard, and it has been a very successful day for cars, that is safe to say, as all three of today's vehicles go into the top three. The Roth Alpha will go the furthest of the lot, claims that top spot for now with that overheating engine. Now the Covert does go second. Now the distance indicator is not 100% accurate. It said the Covert drove a lot further, but in actual fact it didn't. Depending on how the vehicles can brake, especially if you start losing wheels and having wheels spinning and so on, it can throw off the distance indicator. It's only a rough estimation. I will go back and check footage and compare to other cars and so on. And in this case, the Covert, it still did well. I mean, all these cars started their fourth lap. Basically, they all sort of started dying around the start of their fourth laps. And the Piccolino also, you know, it did good. It did good for a small car like that. It went further than the Covert, not by very much at all, but it did go further than the Covert before it ran out of fuel. So, yeah, quite the quite a successful episode. Lots of long-lived cars. Well, that is going to be it for this video as ever. I shall link all the mods used in the description so you can download them and have a go with them yourself. That though shall be it from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.